Hi, Mr. Partha. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, thank you, Mary, for your time, and we are doing good. Hope you are fine too.
Yeah, I'm doing well too. Thank you. And thank you for accepting our invitation to be a part of the Beyond Dream series by our Next Gen Entrepreneur team. And today we are joined in by Mr. Partha Chakraborty. He's a Chief Scientific Officer and Board Member at Arogyam Medisoft Solution. And let's see a brief about the startup, right? So Arogyam Medisoft Solution is founded in 2016, and the startup mission is to enable provision of quality and affordable solutions in the domain of agriculture and also rural healthcare. So they do this by leveraging the sensors, computer vision, and AI technology. Their proprietary products include Soil Sathi, which is a lightweight battery-operated, easy-to-use analyzer, which identifies soil nutrients and plant diseases remotely, and also provides insights real time to the people in the field. And also coming to the healthcare products, they have a couple of them. Haemurex, and it's a machine learning based point of care testing device. And also they have Arogyam Telehealth, which is a connected telemedicine platform with devices like Digital Stethoscope, Thermometer, blood pressure monitor, and ECG and more. And we are really happy to have you with us today, Mr. Partha. And we'd like to know more about yourself and about your journey with Arogyam Medisoft, please.
Yeah. um, we have started our journey from 2016,
Mhm,
and the way Arogyam was actually set up, that it started focusing on developing technology for the rural problems,
mhm,
and that is agriculture and the healthcare, as you have said.
mhm,
And prior to that, I was with leading multinationals
mhm,
and had 22 years of experience that time, and one of the founding members of their life sciences division,
mhm,
and worked globally. And I hold a degree from IIT Kharagpur
mhm,
in energy electrical engineering.
mhm. Okay.
Uh, we have when the genesis of the entire organization and technology process was like that. I, along with my one of my batchmate, he's also from IIT Kharagpur. His name
Mhm,
is Rajiv Mandal, and he's a co-founder of this organization and
mhm,
CEO of this organization. So when we were engaged previously in some of our social activities, we have understood that to reach out some of the problems in the rural sectors in
mhm,
India,
mhm,
we definitely need to actually apply some of the engineering and technology principles we have
mhm,
learned, and develop the solution for them, targeting their technology, their problem, their usage pattern. Many of the time in our country, what happens is that uh, the, the technology is actually imported
okay.
from our Western countries per se,
Mhm,
and the technology is actually built for their usage pattern, and we try to adapt ourselves according to the product which is made by them,
mhm,
and that is we felt that is one of the reasons that it does not reach out to the masses in many cases,
mhm.
specifically the solution area, problem area, which we are actually talking about.
Okay.
So in that from that thought process, we thought that there are two specific areas maybe we would be able to contribute more
Mhm,
and bring out our own expertise, and that is that uh, able to do um, uh, the testing
mhm,
for soil and the water
mhm.
in the for the agricultural setup,
Okay.
where the testing happens in the field
Mhm,
instead of currently how it is happens is that primarily happens in the laboratory and most of the cases, people do not reach out to the laboratories, and even if they do, the workload is so high that they do not get the result on time.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if somebody is trying to actually apply, trying to do some new types of agricultural or crops in their field, they really need to know that what is the type of the soil they
Mm-hmm.
have, or what is the type of the fertilizer they need to apply.
Mm-hmm.
And or somebody is actually running a fishery, they need to have a
Right.
good understanding and a measure of their water. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
all the fishes or etc., they will actually
Mm-hmm.
and they lose their crops. So we deployed there in their field, and it is it can be used by the common people,
Mm-hmm.
common person. And so that's how we actually created our technology,
Mm-hmm.
a new technology, I would say that.
Mm-hmm.
And it is based on the machine learning and artificial intelligence
Mm-hmm.
and some of the newer aspects of the technology which we see nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Those are actually involved.
Okay.
And similarly, we built another solution which is for blood and analysis,
Mm-hmm.
so that these and blood and urine analysis can be performed in a, say, in a village setup, in a
Yeah.
primary health setup, or in a
Mm-hmm.
sub centers,
Mm-hmm.
where these can be immediately tested, and the doctors, even if they are remotely sitting, it can be transmitted to them remotely. All the data which is generated out of these devices, they actually are stored in a cloud-based system,
Mm-hmm.
and doctors can send a prescription based on the evidences which they have received, generated through this kind of devices, and
Mm-hmm.
they almost instantaneously they can send the prescriptions.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's the way we started developing our another solution in healthcare base, which is Haemurex.
Mm-hmm. That's quite interesting, and also like it's very nice to know about your experience, and also as we see that we already have you already have the CE mark for the devices which you have built, so that's quite interesting to know, and also like we'd like to know like how as you mentioned before, like it's a peer based, your peer was your co-founder and more, and but still like even with the experience, were you facing some challenges in the initial phase? Because as you're targeting the rural population, like how was that taken up by them, and how they got they awareness amongst the population there, and what were your challenges? Was it building the product, or forming the team, or funding aspects and more? If you could share some of your initial challenges with us. Mhm.
So the for from an entrepreneurship perspective, there are multiple level of challenges we
Mhm.
need to overcome, and we got a lot of support. I will explain one by one. First of
Okay.
all, on the basis of on the front of funding, we are self-funded. Means what they call it is
Mm-hmm.
that we are bootstrapped organization.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, Currently, we have 8 members team,
Okay.
and a couple of them are PhD in biotech and biochemistry. Then we have the bachelor's in pharmaceutical biotech, botany. So it's a mixed science team, nice.
Mm-hmm.
And we received NSTEDB seed fund, that is from Department of Science and Technology. So
Okay.
at the very early stage, we took the incubation support from
Mm-hmm.
SIIC IIT Kanpur.
Okay. Okay.
So one of the our challenge was actually developing the technology, developing the product based with all the India-made
Mm-hmm.
components. So that product development was itself, it was a challenge, and it needed a good amount of laboratory laboratory and the engineering support setup, which
Mm-hmm.
we received from IIT Kanpur.
Okay.
And as we were actually developing, so there are multiple stages as we are
Mm-hmm.
developing. We got the support from the Department of Science and Technology, as I was saying, that NSTDB one that helped
Mm-hmm.
us
Mm-hmm.
to scale, do a certain level of scale up. And as these technologies are scientific instrumentation,
Mm-hmm.
so it needed a lot of um, testing before
Yeah.
we actually take it to the masses. So
Mm-hmm.
we approximately till April 2020,
Mm-hmm.
we were actually involved into the product development.
Okay. Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
so in around that time, we were we then we started developing our quality systems, etc. Was very properly,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can get the ISO 9001,
Mm-hmm.
ISO 13485 certification, and European C certification. So it
Mm-hmm.
took time, but over the time we actually passed all these certification certificate things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, in 2020, we were hit with COVID.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, like all of us, we were
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of, um, uh, I'll say that we didn't know
Mm-hmm.
perplexed what's to be done. There are two levels of issue happened. One is that suddenly business became standstill, and also
Mm-hmm.
the our individual members also was
Yeah.
suffering from the disease. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
anyhow, but it also opened out. It started in a situation where it became, I'll say, the good launching pad of our product and
Mm-hmm.
pad of our product, because our product is based on the principle of telehealth.
Yes. Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
so we could actually deploy it in now currently there is around 12 customers or 12 or 13 customers. We have
Mm-hmm.
around 80 deployment, and these
Okay.
deployments we have done in different states
Mm-hmm.
in India
Mm-hmm.
and also in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And we could actually in last 2 years, what happened is that I'll say that it became a field trial. It became a very good ground for the field trial of our product and applications,
Mm-hmm.
where we could test. It has been used for more than 30,000 patients,
Mm-hmm.
and more than 100,000 tests are performed on this platform,
Mm-hmm.
and around same 30,000 prescriptions has been generated with our telehealth system.
That's
One of
quite
the
great.
very
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
one of the very interesting things we did with government of Arunachal Pradesh, where in Changlang district it has been piloted with one of the
Mm-hmm.
with the district administration. And Changlang
Okay.
district is one of the remotest district of
Mm-hmm.
India,
Okay.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
and and it has been successfully deployed there in, and it has been used. We
Mm-hmm.
could also get a lot of perspective and feedback that how to improve our systems, and which we are currently doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's it's going on in past 2 years like that.
That's quite interesting, and thank you for sharing, Mr. Partha. And also to understand, like the healthcare, you already had the product, like developing the product before COVID, or that all striked after the pandemic. Like, was the product aligned? It wasn't already in pipeline, or you thought of the telehealth platform post the pandemic? Just to
No, no,
understand.
it was
Mm-hmm.
done before. So between
Okay.
2016 to 2019, we were
Mm-hmm.
actually doing the product development, and
Okay.
we got our first certifications
Mm-hmm.
in 2020. And
Okay.
after that, so that is the time that COVID started,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the adoption started during the COVID.
Okay, that's quite nice. I mean, it just fell in the right path, with all the certificate and everything,
Yeah.
correctly to deploy in the phase in which remote healthcare was much needed. I mean, that was the only sort for patients and to connect with physicians, and not only for remote areas, but every even in cities and urban areas, like everybody wanted it, and that's quite interesting. And also, uh, to to understand about, as you're the chief scientific officer, and how was the for an Indian company seeking the certification, also a CE mark, what was the timeline and how was it, how was your experience specifically for the healthcare devices and to deal with the patient samples and more? If you could just give some glimpses of it.
See, I think from 2017,
Mm-hmm.
there has been some certain regulatory activities happening in our country,
Mm-hmm.
which has made the system much more transparent and easier to use. So there
Okay.
is a portal, government search portal called Sugam, which
Mm-hmm.
is a portal for CDSCO, which is a regulatory agency of us. So we
Mm-hmm.
needed to apply there. We needed to follow the process outlined,
Mm-hmm.
and they also have, along with the Quality Council of India, they had a certain set of accredited bodies or certification agencies to whom we actually need to contact and get the certification done and audit done. So we followed
Okay.
out that path very
Mm-hmm.
specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you that in this aspect, our incubator, IIT Kanpur, actually helped us a lot by
Mm-hmm.
providing these informations.
Mm-hmm.
So in maybe we took around 1.5 years to complete all the certifications. We were doing
Mm-hmm.
one by one. But because of the information we received, many of the activities we found that it is most very transparent and it was done on time.
Okay, okay, that's quite interesting. And also the process, it's become more clear and kind of transparent, as you mentioned, and that'll be really helpful for startups, and also support from incubators
Correct.
really helps, gives a platform for them, startups to grow and supports them, in
That's
all
right.
aspects. That's great. And also to understand, as the pandemic, hit, there were a lot of short supply of hardware components and more. Like, how was, because as your device-based products, what was the impact on your startup on those lines?
Yeah. So in the first 3 months, there was a supply chain disruption happened.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the important aspect of our technology is that all the chipsets and etc. is made in India. So it is not dependent on
Okay.
any external country. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so after the first 3 months of issue of pandemic, then
Mm-hmm.
we were actually was fortunate enough to continue our operation and
Mm-hmm.
create our manufacturing facility.
That's quite nice. I mean, because we always see the startup, they rely on Chinese electronics, hardwares and more a lot. Like, and we when we talk with a lot of startups, they mentioned that they have been hit and they couldn't, sustain the production cycle and more. But it's really nice to know that, even sensor fabrication, every hardware product are doing in India. That's quite nice. And so it's an end-to-end India, made in India product, as we can, from Arogyam, right?
Yeah,
That's quite
and
good. Mhm.
and I will tell you that maybe it is the way I see that there are see we are very when it's, I will say that from a startup where means organizations now maybe we are entering into the category of small business,
Mhm. Mhm.
but we are also seeing that now requests coming that whether we can be the contract manufacturer
Okay.
of the medical devices and
Mhm.
which can be sold in India and which can be exported out of India.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
we are definitely very enthusiastic about it, and I think that this some the means the in the ecosystem, I'm sure that other startups or the
Mm-hmm.
contract manufacturer of medical devices organization of India, they are also getting much more similar requests,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that itself would be a game changer. Today, maybe
Yes.
around 98% of the devices are imported in India.
Yes.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that is going to change in next 10 years, and
Mm-hmm.
we would be actually able to export a good amount of
Mm-hmm.
um, medical devices probably out of India. We would
Mm-hmm.
need at means as a startup, we sometimes lack clarity
Mm-hmm.
on many of the aspects of the rules and regulations, like what will be the import duty and export
Mm-hmm.
duty. And many
Right.
of the people in this setup, they are also not simply aware of, because
Mm-hmm.
India is the net importer. So
Yes.
they didn't
Yes.
know that
Mm-hmm.
what will happen in this case. So what are
Mm-hmm.
the rules? But
Okay.
government is also setting up that some of the new policy guideline for exim, and
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the activities, those are the things will greatly help bring in the clarity and the transparency for organization like us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. As you rightly said, like we really have no much, big players in the medical device manufacturing in India because we are such a big market for all the foreign country, companies from abroad and more. They utilize our population as a market, and we mostly use the abroad devices for diagnostics, in and out of hospital. We have all imported devices and more. So it's really good to see, indigenous players in here, and also not just devices, but also as manufacturers for CROs and more. And thank you, Mr. Partha, for sharing your insights on this, and also to understand more about Arogyam's value proposition. So you are into agriculture and healthcare. You are planning to venture into other industries, or to widen up the pipeline of products in healthcare or agriculture in near future?
Not immediately at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So our essentially we create the means use the same technology
Mm-hmm.
and manifest into two different product lines for agriculture and health.
Okay.
The overall manufacturing process is same. The
Mm-hmm.
difference is there in the selling methods and go-to-market methods.
Okay.
We want to actually consolidate it more, and we want to actually grow, means increase the product adoption and branding
Mm-hmm.
better, and maybe to try quite a few other markets
Mm-hmm.
rather than actually getting into the other industry verticals and etc. We think that there is a lot which can be done into
Mm-hmm.
the IoT based product which we have
Right.
created into this
Mm-hmm.
target industry vertical.
Yes, yes, yeah, that's quite true. And also to, talk about the healthcare solution which you offer. So the point of care diagnostics, because we see that a lot of startups and companies are coming with such POCT devices, right? They have the use case in which devices, even like a marker, they use multiple biomarkers and more. In here, where does Arogyam's Haemurex, the product Haemurex, yeah, where it stands, what is the uniqueness, if you will, about it? Can you please explain?
So it's a very small product,
Mhm.
and um, I was just checking that whether I have the product in hand or not. No, in front of it's not there. In my
Okay.
next room, it was there. But
Mhm.
it's a very lightweight product, 500 grams,
Okay.
and it can test 25 parameters as of now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that itself is a
Yes.
unique proposition, because most of the
Mm-hmm.
time what we have a glucometer for
Mm-hmm.
um, glucose, other meter for other purposes. Here with the same device, uh, which can actually test 25 things,
Okay.
and
Mhm.
and it can test both blood and urine. That
Mm-hmm.
is another uh,
Okay.
uniqueness.
The same
Thirdly is that
device. The same
same
device.
device, same
Okay.
device.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And thirdly is that it can send the data
Mm-hmm.
to the cloud setup. So that
Okay.
means that from remotely,
Mm-hmm.
also somebody can looked into the device,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
into the results and what is happening. So
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
can scale, bring down the timeline very significant.
Right. Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
both this device is connected to the cloud-based laboratory management system.
Okay.
So that also that because the data is automatically going to the cloud and the
Mm-hmm.
report for
Mm-hmm.
the patient is generated automatically. So it not only reduces the timeline,
Mm-hmm.
it reduces the possibility of the manual transcription error. Otherwise,
Right.
you know that in normal devices, you need to actually take the reading by
Readings.
hand,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
write into something. So that
Mm-hmm.
entire process is automated and digital.
Mm-hmm. That's quite interesting, and also like as we see that it's very unique, such device. I'm quite positive that we don't have in globally, a device which can test multiple samples, the same sensors which can do it, and that's quite good. Like to digitalize the data, which how that's where we are going with, digitalizing the medical records and integrating of records of patients with the healthcare infrastructure and more. And also like coming to the agriculture side, like as we see that we have faced as a country, like we are an agriculture country, and also we see a lot of farmers suicides and more, as you rightly mentioned, when they don't know like what to do with what the soil supports and more, they end up having a wrong decision or wrong crop and more, like something like that. So how was your interaction like with the end users, like the farmers? How were they all positively accepting to use the technology? Are they all are they are they okay with using it? Because to understand for the common man, like we see farming not much of technologically driven right now. So how was it for you as a startup experience with farmers?
Yeah, let me tell you the another a little bit of different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So our actually approach to the agriculture happened um, through the health perspective of health. That
Okay.
means
Mm-hmm.
what we are eating and what we are drinking, that actually influence my health.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if there is any provision by which I can test
Mm-hmm.
that what the kind of water
Right.
on which my crops are generated, I
Mm-hmm.
mean my fishes are actually cultured,
Mm-hmm.
or drinking water which in the rural sector they may be getting in,
Mm-hmm.
or the soil they are actually using, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's already contaminated or not,
Mm-hmm.
that actually can actually serves as a lot of heartburn, I would say, in longer run.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that
Mm-hmm.
was the outlook. So when we went to the farmers,
Mm-hmm.
they, I'll say that the response was initially lukewarm,
Mm-hmm.
that they wanted to get more understanding, and they were not initially, there were two kinds of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
One is that whether it would increase their
Mm-hmm.
cost or not.
Okay.
And we got help from NABARD
Mm-hmm.
in piloting the solutions here.
Okay.
And secondly is that, uh, they were not sure that if the advisory which is generated, whether
Mm-hmm.
that is going to cause any harm to them, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
okay, whether their crop will be actually
Yeah.
uh,
Okay. You're quite skeptical in accepting.
accepting.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we got the experts support and etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they have seen now. Now there are we did a pilot, but the pilot actually created repeat business because they
Okay.
have seen that their cost has come down.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, that was very important last year. Last year what had happened is that because of the war and whatever
Mm-hmm.
external situations,
Yeah.
the cost of the fertilizer went up.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and but in our pilot cases, what happens, because the fertilizer advisory
Mm-hmm.
actually trimmed down the uses of the fertilizer by a certain percent.
Okay.
So the farmers eventually net they were actually
Mm-hmm.
the gainer, because
Yes.
their cost of farming came down.
Mm-hmm.
And they also saw that their yield was actually more than 50, around 15%, 1 5.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
15% more yield they have got. So they are coming back with more things,
That.
more demand of that thing. And
Mm-hmm.
we piloted these things in Africa in one of the large rubber plantation.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
wanted to know the quality of the rubber much
Okay.
earlier when the latex is being
Mm-hmm.
extracted out from the rubber plant.
Okay.
And they also wanted to know that what is means whether they are giving the right kind of fertilizer or not. So they actually piloted it for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they have seen that 15%, again the very similar kind of result we got.
Mm-hmm.
15% reduction in their cost.
Okay.
And so they and you'll so for that plantation, 75 crores were the cost of the fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is 15% of that, you can understand that they actually
Yes.
um, gained by 10 crores
Mm-hmm.
of by usage of this technology and devices.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
they are actually going for a full-scale implementation
Mm-hmm.
this year,
Mm-hmm.
and we will be visiting them in October
Mm-hmm.
in Africa for that one.
That's quite, such a impact it has, like directly on their gain and profit, and also to make them understand. So when attend it, it reduces the cost or increases the yield, it directly shows how much, useful the technology is, and that's quite beneficial. And thank you, Partha, for joining us today and for sharing your insightful experience with from Arogyam and more. And we really appreciate it. And as a takeaway, we would like to get some takeaways from you for young and aspiring entrepreneurs from your experience, please.
I think I will say that entrepreneurship is a very much hard work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that perseverance and patience pays off in long run. So
Mm-hmm.
that is a piece of advice I will actually keep it for the young entrepreneurs.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today, Mr. Partha, and we really appreciate it. And we soon get in touch with you for any future sessions like this. Yeah, thank you, and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.